Oh my god, that's amazing.
Oh, shoot, a rabbit, dude. I can't believe I did that. Okay, 1 second. In the moment either.
You good, you good. I mean, can you put it on BRB and then fix it, or
Yeah,
no? Nice, nice, nice.
And now...
See, we could have. We should have just been talking.
We're on. Whoo! We're good.
We should have just been talking full God of War spoilers.
Seriously, yeah. It's totally worth it.
Oh man. Chat, we good now, right? All right, so I mean, I'll just start over.
Yeah,
Thank you everybody for coming here, talking about Game Awards. Thanks, Jake, Christian, Andrew. You're forced to be here. You don't have any choice on the matter. Hey, Maria, thank you for showing up. Irving, thank you, saving the stream right there. You're our stream MVP.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Topics for the show today: Game Awards, GOTY 2022, our own GOTY, and our very own award categories. So we all ended up watching the Game Awards last night?
2 nights
No,
ago.
it was Thursday.
2 nights, yeah, 2 nights ago. Had a ton of fun. We even filled out a ballot, of which Andrew won. What was your final score? 16 out of 24?
Yeah, which equates to, for every award, I had a 2 in 3 chance of getting it right, which... That's pretty good. Okay,
it was pretty.
Credits during the awards except for me, but I deserve it.
You did deserve it. You're right. Yeah, it's hard. It's like, do you go for the heart picks or you go for the W? Andrew went for the W.
I went for the W, exactly.
All right. General thoughts on the show. What would you give the show from like a on a 5 scale? How would you compare it to? Yeah, scale 1 to 5. How would you compare it to other shows? Let's start up with you, Andrew.
For me, it's a 5 out of 5. I thought this was... I mean, I haven't been thinking critically about shows for that long, but as long as I've been thinking about them critically, I can't think of a show better than this. Where we talked about this earlier, and we'll talk about it again. Xbox was completely absent from this show, which is hilarious. And I didn't even think about it. Like, that didn't even mean anything because it was that good to where I wasn't thinking like, oh man, I didn't get Redfall or Starfield dates. It didn't even matter because there was so much good. So yeah, 5 out of 5 to me.
But they pointed out Phil at the beginning. So
yeah, exactly. The only Xbox was there.
That's amazing. Adrian from Paris. Let's go. Irving gave it 4 out of 5, -1 because of that small kid.
That was hilarious.
We'll circle back to that.
Honestly, maybe a +1 for that kid.
Yeah, that's a bonus point.
I saw a tweet that said Jeff should bring back that kid to announce to present the Game of the Year award next year. I was like, how funny would that be?
He's arrested right now.
Oh my god! All right, Christian, give us your thoughts on it. Score.
Yeah, I think it was like a 4.5 out of 5. I think like I don't really love how they rush through like half of the categories. That's the only thing.
That's fair.
But it was definitely the least cringy award show that I've watched in a long time. That I like not a lot of like lame gamer jokes, like just like respect for the industry, and like not a lot of weird dancing or performative art, orchestra music. Everything was like really solid. I'm gonna give it because of the rushing and because of the taking away from Miyazaki's shine or like moment. I think like minus -0.5 point, so 4.5 out of 5 for me.
Nice. I like that. Jake?
I think I'd agree with a 4. I think that's fair. That's what I was gonna say. There was only one real like cringe gamer moment when Crash came on stage.
That's true. I forgot about that.
To
announce like cringe. That was cringe.
The most, not even mid, just like horrible game they could announce.
Yeah. See, the thing about that moment for me is that half of it was great. I was totally bought in with the craziness of like the guy dressed up as Crash, and it's a callback to like old Crash commercials. But then when it was a MOBA, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless that game was developed by like interns, I think that's just a waste of money to
Yeah.
develop that game. But
He's
Yeah.
not a Wumpa fruit guy, you know.
I guess not. But yeah,
Well, that says a lot too, because Jake is our like resident MOBA player. So the fact that he was not even remotely interested in this says a
the
lot.
Pokemon one was sick, but this one just looks like a ripoff of the Pokemon one.
Yeah.
Because they like dunk the fruit in the basket.
I was thinking
it's
the
exactly
same
what you do in the
thing, yeah.
Pokemon one. I don't know. But yeah, I thought all the game trailers were really good. The production quality was really high. Christopher Judge talked for way too long.
Yeah, he did.
4 out of 5.
You can't interrupt Kratos though.
They were giving him like a crescendo. They were playing the music so loud.
I know. They're like, Chris, please. I would give it a 5 out of 5. I think more so than any show I've watched in recent memory, I just felt like really surprised. I think they brought out some bangers. Perfect segue, Maria asking, which trailer did you guys like the most? So I'll start off with that because that kind of built into my answer for why I thought the show was so good and why I would give it a 5 out of 5. For me, my favorite trailer was honestly Death Stranding 2. I thought that was so unexpected. I know that feels super stupid, but that and Hades 2, I just felt like, one, there are two games that I was like, I can't believe that they're getting sequels. And I can't believe that like Death Stranding 2 is not closing the show. Like I just thought that was crazy. Like we had that in the middle of the show, even Hades 2, and we're like, what? There's more? Like both of those games could have closed out the show like easily. So I thought that was crazy. So we'll start off with you, Andrew. Best trailer and most hyped game.
Yeah, I felt like for me, I didn't have any of those big Nintendo moments that would have like just sent me, over the edge. But I did.
No audio on this scene. Sorry.
Oh, I got no audio on the scene. Dang it, man. Dude,
On
the I had the video scene playing, and I just remembered that I don't have audio on that scene too. But anyway, so I was saying Remnant 2 for me is for sure it's the one that got me the most hype, just because I didn't see it coming at all.
Yeah, I feel that. Christian, best trailer, most hyped games.
I think Baldur's Gate 3 getting an official August release makes me like absolutely pumped. Wheel of Minx at the end was really cool. So I'm just a huge fan D&D stuff, and then also of Larian Studio. So I think that's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be GOTY. Calling it now for next year.
Yep,
I think it's definitely up there. Yeah.
And then other than that, I really liked the Judas trailer. I'm not like a huge Bioshock guy, but I think that like the art direction in that one has me really interested in playing it for sure.
Yeah, I went back and watched that trailer, and I felt like, yes, it definitely looks like more Bioshock, but I don't know, like there's like more going on in that one. Mm-hmm. Like I was really, really interested by it. So good call on mentioning Judas on the chat. Jake, best trailer, most hype games.
Definitely. Baldur's Gate 3. I was super psyched on that. I was kind of losing my mind throughout that whole trailer. I'm just so excited to play that game in full release.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then I hate that I was so psyched for Diablo 4.
Let's go.
But I was watching that Diablo 4 trailer, and it wasn't even gameplay. It was so whatever they did, all the CG they did for that trailer just had me so hyped. I was like, oh god. Yeah. I hope I don't actually get super psyched for that game, just because I'm not happy with Blizzard.
Don't look up any of the previews then, because I'm telling you, those previews look so good. They look so good. I'm so pumped for that.
So interesting thing about Diablo 4, because I watched Irving coming up with the perfect little segue there. Heard good things about Diablo 4 from SkillUp though. That preview is great, but SkillUp talked about this, or maybe another preview it was, but how I thought this was really cool. I think Diablo 4 has a really good art direction, and like one of the things that they were talking about is how like they're like looking to like old like Victorian art and like crazy paintings like that to like really drive that sort of feeling across. And I don't know, like I think it just felt like different from other like RPGs and like Diablo games that I've seen. I don't know. I think there's something cool going on with this one, so
I've never played a Diablo game. I'm really interested to play this one.
Yeah, this would be our first too, so that's why it's like I'm very excited to hop into one that looks as solid as this. Also, Maria, as I think am I the resident Final Fantasy fan in this group before?
You're the anime gamer, man.
yeah, that's me. I'm very excited.
Played one.
Oh yeah,
you played Final Fantasy 12, and that was like that's still one of my favorite games.
Did
I
you
really
not
like
play
that
7 Remake?
No, I started it but never finished it. That's on my backlog this year. So Final Fantasy 12 I finished the whole game. It was really long and I really liked it. And I would say, here, I'll let you go first and then I'll speak to it.
Well, I'm just saying that I think that 16 looks awesome. I even liked 15, so my bar is really low. But this looks significantly better than that. And I think following up, I think what Square Enix has done a really cool job with is their battle systems over time. Like you start with the point of like Final Fantasy 15 was kind of weird, and then it like got better and better and better. And 7 Remake was so good. So I just feel like 16 looks like just the next step up in that. And so yeah, I'm pumped for Final Fantasy 16 for sure.
What I was going to say is, I think one of the things that I'm excited most about Final Fantasy 16 is that like 12 to me was like very like medieval Final Fantasy, but like crazy airships and stuff like that. And then after that, I think that's like where it was like 13 is kind of where they started going like a different direction with lightning, and then like the more sort of like modern looking characters, like even 15 obviously.
And 7.
Yeah, and so like I think with this one, it feels like kind of going back to their roots a little bit, like dragons and like armor and like I don't know, it just looks a lot more like RPG classic fantasy that I like.
Yeah, it's
and
going back to those first few that were like just classic fantasy, which is cool.
Exactly. So that I think that kind of has me really excited. Mm-hmm. So I had a question on here, but I think that I think we all agree on this one. But I'm just gonna throw it out there. Do we agree with the Game Awards Game of the Year pick, which was Elden Ring?
Yes.
That's a double thumbs up. I think we all wanted that. I think we all liked God of War. I think I don't want to speak for everybody, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think we all were like Elden Ring is 1, God of War is 2, and we were happy with how that all kind of worked out.
Yeah, and everything else sucked compared to those two games.
Yeah, everything else could suck it.
Yeah.
Irvin's like didn't even play it, but yes. So yes, I feel like I think this is something we brought up a lot. How like it just felt like a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
I mean, we all started playing it like on launch. We were playing it like pretty much everyone we knew was playing it so concurrently. And
our D&D session started with like a 30-minute Elden Ring discussion.
Yep.
What we thought, what we found.
Yep. But then even like, man, I just remember hearing just like normie friends of mine who were like, oh yeah, Elden Ring, and like we were like excited about it, which I think is really cool.
My buddy Luke got Elden Ring. It was his first Souls game that he'd ever played. And then since then, so since what was it, February, right?
Yep.
Since February, he has beaten every Souls game. So like this year, and he's finishing Sekiro will be his last one that he just.
That's so cool.
On the final boss, like probably right now as we speak. So
that's awesome.
That's amazing.
It's insane.
Dude, that's awesome.
It definitely has brought people that were not into the genre, like totally roped them in, which is cool.
For sure. I feel a lot more comfortable if I ever wanted to go back and play Soulsborne games, like to go back and play them. I just have a terrible backlog.
I like how the narrative worked out for like other than a couple of snubs that I'm sure we'll talk about. I liked how the narrative worked out of like essentially God of War got 6 awards and like won a lot of battles. Sorry, I do a lot of hand things. This is behind the scenes. Whenever I'm doing a script and I'm doing the voiceover, my hands are like this the whole time. Like it's essentially like help my mind organize things. But anyway, Elden Ring won 4 awards and God of War won 6. And to me, somehow that's just the perfect narrative for this whole year. I liked it a lot that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to make fun of you. I was doing I do a lot of hand stuff
Yeah,
too. So I was
yeah.
saying like, yeah, they won one award, then they won another. Yeah, it was crazy.
All right, so then I want to talk about biggest snubs. So I got all the winners pulled up here with the nominees. I'll throw one in there first because I think this is one we all kind of were talking about in our chat too. Best action game went to Bayonetta 3. The other 4 nominees were Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Neon White, Sifu, and Shredder's Revenge. And I definitely felt like if Sifu was gonna get any flowers that night, it was gonna be this, and then it didn't. And I was like, damn, that sucks. R.I.P. Sifu. What did you guys think?
I think Sifu should have won that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I
That or
disagree,
Neon White.
but that's okay.
Oh yeah, then it brought up a whole conversation about what does action game even mean. But
Yeah, there's some questionable categories overall, like how Sifu ends up in fighting game, and like what is family game, what was the one that Dusk Fall won that I was
Games for
confused about?
Impact.
Games for
Action,
Impact.
Games
That
for
just
Change,
was
yeah.
like, I don't know, that felt kind of weird. But yeah, I knew Bayonetta 3 was gonna win. That was one of the ones I picked. But I definitely wanted Sifu or Neon White to pick, which those are 2 of my biggest snubs overall, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Yeah.
Best indie was the biggest one for me.
Yeah.
Seriously, man.
Should we just
I mean, best indie and best debut indie.
should we
were
get
both.
the elephant out of the room with the straight talk?
Stray sucks.
Stray is
The first hour of Stray is very fun. Like the world building of Stray, being able to like do fun things as a cat, pressing the meow button 100 times in the first 30 minutes, and then like after that for me that whole game falls apart because like the only thing that I felt like the game designers like intended for that game was they were like, what if you could be a cat?
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, that's the only idea they had. They're like, but like, what if you could be a cat?
Mm-hmm.
What if
So-
we told this,
so-
like strange story about the world? Like, it's, like the story is like fine. It's very atmospheric, very cool, but it's not the most engaging story of all time, like ever.
It looks pretty, yeah.
Yeah, it looks really pretty, but the cat mechanics, like you just, I don't know. I don't know if this is anybody else's experience. I felt like at a certain point, I was just literally just holding the action button and pressing forward until I
Yeah.
beat the game. I was like, this
Mhm.
is just not. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I definitely agree. I feel like I definitely play more of those sort of like walking simulator games or just like artsy games. So I kind of was okay with that for the most part. But I definitely agree in that like, yeah, there just wasn't much else to the game. Irving says, I still haven't finished it. Is it worth finishing? It is not too long.
Yeah,
it's pretty short.
it's worth finishing. The story wraps up in a nice way.
Yeah, I agree.
But and it's short enough to where it's worth finishing.
I do think that like I also like I think 2 of us or I think all of us did this where I think all of us played it through the PlayStation Extra tier thing, right?
Yeah.
So like so I think in the end I paid $3 to play Stray, which like I was very okay with that.
Mhm.
But yeah, best indie was Cult of the Lamb, Neon White, Sifu, Stray, and Tunic. Who would you guys give that to then? If it wasn't Stray, Cult of the Lamb.
Any of the other ones.
Yeah.
I
Probably.
love Cult of the Lamb, and I also love Neon White a lot. So either of those would have been like totally fine with me. I think Cult of the Lamb is like a little bit higher for me than Neon White, but yeah.
I would have given it to any of the. I mean, not Tunic necessarily, just because I didn't play a lot of it, and I didn't play Call of Lamb, but I know I would love it. But Sifu and Neon White for me were way above it. I just think for me with Stray, I liked it. It was a good game to me, but the fact that it was nominated for Game of the Year and best, actually more weirded out by best game direction for that. That blows my mind. I think the only one where I felt really good about Stray being there was art direction. And so the fact that it also then won both the indies was just like overkill in my mind.
Yeah,
For sure. I would be stuck between Neon White and Cult of the Lamb. I think I would give it to Neon White just because I don't know. I just felt like that game kind of when it came out, I mean, it took everyone by storm. Like people were talking about it. Christian and I playing it alongside each other was a ton of fun. And it's also like it was such a different game that I've never played anything like that. And for it to kind of break through and be an indie game like that, I think is a big deal. And I wish it would have got that sort of recognition.
I'm curious, Gabe, since you have the list up, like I understand the need for the difference between debut indie and best indie, but are there any games on the debut or on the indie list that are not debuts?
It's just Call of the Lamb, I'm pretty sure.
Let's see. So
Ask that question again.
So is there anything on the indie list, the best indie list, that's not also a debut?
Yeah.
Call to the Lamb is made by Devolver. So like
Okay, got it.
it's not Devolver's debut game.
Is this Annapurna? Wait. Oh, but it's not Annapurna published, not made. Stray.
I think I totally get your point. I remember looking at those categories and being like, "Oh wait, this is the same category except Cult of the Lamb is in the indie." That was it. It was the same category.
Well, yeah, debut indie had Norco, and then it also had Vampire Survivors. And I think it's like that team's first game. Yeah. I think that's what it is. Not necessarily that publisher, but that team's first game. Because I think Annapurna did publish Neon White. So these are like, and like Tunic. Like honestly, I think there's even like there's an argument for Tunic being debut indie just because it was that guy's first game, and I think it was made by like a very small team, if only one person or something like that. That might have been the story. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it is crazy that it won both.
Yeah, and I think Andrew was kind of saying that, where it's like if you end up on the game of the year category, you're kind of almost sure to win most categories that you were already in.
That was my like thought process for the whole thing. It was just if Stray is on there, it's gonna win those other two categories. So I picked it for those two categories, even though I didn't like it at all. I would have gladly picked Sifu or Neon White, but it's just if it's gonna be there, then it's gonna win everything else, which is how obviously God of War and Elden Ring we're gonna win best RPG and best action, because I feel like for voters, just knowing the process of the voting with those big outlets and whatnot, they're going to pick Elden Ring for best RPG, because what if it doesn't win game of the year? Well, you want to have best RPG. Same with God of War for action. You want to make sure it gets the best action, because then what if it doesn't win game, that kind of thought process.
Yeah. So little segue. Obviously, we've talked about a lot of game of the year stuff, and I think it's very evident that everyone here, us four, our game of the year is Elden Ring. That's fair, right? That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So if Elden Ring is in your game of the year, maybe give me like your second or third, because I think second is probably God of War, but maybe give me like your third or fourth. Well, like,
your non-Elden Ring / God of War game of the year pick.
Yeah, exactly. So, what's yours, Andrew?
Mine would be Sifu. It would be between Sifu and Horizon. We're not going to get to talk about Horizon barely at all, probably, in this whole thing, which I think is sad, because you guys didn't play it, and I was the only one who played it. I loved Horizon, but Sifu was such a clean experience, and I did play it after launch, so I had the benefit of that easy mode. So how I played it was I beat the whole thing on the normal difficulty at launch. I thought it was really hard, but I didn't think it was impossible like people were talking about it when it released. I think Sekiro is a much harder game, and that one wasn't talked about in the same way that this was talked about. I mean, there were people who reviewed it and just bombed it because they just thought it was too difficult, and I did not feel that. But then after I beat it, you can do a Then after I beat it, you can do a second playthrough where you get your your better ending, essentially, and it's harder to do. But since I had the easy mode, I switched it to easy mode, and I got to do all that, and it just was such a nice like bow on top of the wrapping, and So in the end, I loved my whole time as Sifu.
Cool. I like that. For me, Sifu has this thing where it's like, man, I was so hyped on that game in the beginning of the year. And I'm still hyped on it. I want to go back and do the what's it called, the extra ending and all that stuff. But I have this sort of recency bias with games for sure. I do that with movies, with anything, where it's like if that came out early in the year, it's like hard for me to put myself there again. Of like, oh yeah, like except for Elden Ring, because I don't know. I also played that for so much longer.
I think that I was gonna say the factor is also Sifu's like a 5 to 6 hour game, and you played 140 hours of Elden Ring. So I just kind of that experience.
Mm-hmm.
I love Sifu though. I think you gave it a 5 out of 5. I think I gave it a 4.5, just because I think the ending fell a little, the original ending fell a little flat for me, and I really liked the story, and so I was like, oh man, I'm kind of bummed out that the ending kind of ended up like that. If it's not Elden Ring and it's not God of War for me, my number 3 is actually Cult of the Lamb. which is kind of crazy. But man, when I go back and think about me playing that game, I was playing that like any second I could get. Like I was like going like even like Kathleen and I would go do groceries and I'm like playing it while she's getting ready. Like I'm just like any second I could get to play it. And I felt like the gameplay loop was such a like it was so addicting. Like I loved building up my town, getting like the new rituals. I thought the combat was like not super hard, but not like mind-numbingly easy. Like it definitely felt easy at times, but like I don't know, I felt like it was pretty balanced. Like I didn't need it to be harder than it was. I love the art direction in that game, the music. Like I don't know, I just loved it. So that would have been mine. That or V Rising. So Christian.
For me, if I skip past Elden Ring and God of War again, it's also Cult of the Lamb.
Nice.
It was like one of my favorite games of the year. Just really.
Yeah, we were playing that about the same time too.
Yeah, we were both playing it at the same time, talking about our experience, talking about the different is it sermons or like different abilities, like trees that we were going down. And
well, that was the cool thing about it too, because we played it very differently actually. Like you were doing like I wasn't resurrecting people and I didn't realize you could do that as much until the end. Like you were doing that a lot. So I think even that is like a big plus of the game of like you can play it so differently. Even though like there is a lot of options, but it doesn't feel that way. And then when you hear someone else's experience, you're like, oh wow, that is actually a lot.
And Irvin said it in chat, like the thematics around it is so funny. Like it's a very cutesy cult game. It's like hilarious. It's like hilarious in its own right, just that it exists. And then it's also executed really well, and like it doesn't overstay its welcome in terms of that combat. Like I felt like I wasn't like, oh, okay, like this is taking too long for a roguelike game. Like I felt like I was able to like complete it in a satisfying amount of time. So Cult of the Lamb probably number 3 for me.
Nice. Jake?
I'm gonna go with the Monster Hunter expansion for me.
Ooh, yeah.
I played more Monster Hunter than probably anyone else in this Discord call.
Yep.
When it originally came out, and
for sure when it originally came out.
Yeah, the same thing happened again. I think. I don't remember who. Someone started catching up to me.
I tried to compete with you on this round, but I was still always in last place because I played so little of the first round.
Yeah, and it was my first Rise was my first Monster Hunter game I played, and I was so addicted to it that all I wanted was more monsters to kill and do like new weapons and stuff. And so with the expansion, I basically was like, I'm gonna relearn a whole nother weapon, and then it was just like. Monster Hunter is cool because if you can just pick up another weapon, the game feels like a new game. And Sunbreak, in my opinion, was really good. And then there were free updates that came out after it was released. And I've still been playing Monster Hunter whenever there's a free update just to play the new monsters.
Yes.
And that's just, it's given me so many hours of fun. So I still haven't hit Master Rank 100. Which is crazy. That's the only annoying thing, but I will eventually.
Monster Hunter is in my top 10 this year. Original Monster Hunter Rise was number 11 for me last year, and then actually I think this is number 10 for me this year. You know, steep competition, but I agree. I played this one. You know, I think the last one. We did the campaign and everything. I think I tried to min-max my build a little bit afterward, but I didn't play much afterwards. This one I played a lot afterwards. Like I wanted to get like my build. Like I mostly did it so that I could earn the currency you need to get the tickets to do the what's it called when you get the armor, but it's like not your armor. Yeah, to get the layered armor. So I mostly did it for that. But then even just going to do different builds, like I ended up doing that build where I crafted the Shards Blade from like the last boss, who gives you like those little floating red bird things, and that gives you like this crazy buff / debuff. Like, yeah, I got really into, for whatever reason, I don't know, I couldn't really tell you why. I will say, I think this DLC had a really cool theme to it. Like I like the new land like a lot, like the castle and everything. the monsters in this one were really cool. Once it got going, and we were seeing new monsters left and right. I think that was awesome. And I think it also just had the benefit of like we had played Rise, obviously, so being able to just dive into this and like kind of quickly understand what we were doing and everything. It was just kind of fun. So, more thoughts on Sunbreak? Anybody?
Number 8 for me, it was great. I think that 8 of the year, that is. I think it was fantastic. I just hated that like beginning grind of having to do all of the old monsters again.
Yeah,
it was like
yeah.
a frustrating experience where we were like, oh, like we're gonna play. Yeah, we're so excited to hop in. Let me fight the same guys.
Yeah,
the first session.
It was a first couple sessions. That we were fighting the same monsters. It just felt like a little bit too repetitive at the beginning. The pacing wasn't great.
Once it got going, it was great.
Well, that's the thing, is it picked up like crazy at the end. Like it was, by the end, it was like, whoa, new monster, new monster, new monster. It just feels it feels like they could have spread that out a little bit better, and then it would have been a better package. But yeah, I feel the exact
same thing.
Is
like Pokemon in my mind a little bit. I don't know if this makes sense, but they have so many monsters that they like haven't introduced in a game in a long time, that if they had just given this a little bit more time, they could have just replaced all of those first however many missions with this backlog of monsters that haven't been in a game in a while, right? Like they have like a ton of monsters from all the previous entries that they could have included there instead of these repeats from this game. So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel that. Andrew, you want to take it away to the next section of our live stream?
We've already talked about our game of the year, so we're just moving on to our game awards, right?
Yep.
All right, sweet. So we're gonna move on to the awards that we picked out. So we're not all totally wild about Jeff Keighley's naming conventions for his awards. So we stepped it up, and we came up with our own award show, essentially. Not your typical kind of awards. Now let's start at the top. We've got our first award is titled "Where Did the Time Go?", which is essentially the game that you played the most, the one that you forgot time while you were playing. I'm going to start off with Christian. Why don't you give us your Where Did the Time Go award?
Might be no surprise. Elden Ring for me was the game that I played the most. It was crazy. I mean, like I don't typically like have this, I don't know, like this much dedication to like putting in hours when it comes to a game, but I had 2 characters in Elden Ring by the time I put it down for a while. And
that's so true.
120 hours with the first one playing in co-op with you guys, and then 20 more hours playing co-op with another friend. So
I totally forgot you had 2 characters.
Yeah.
Is the Count and the Countess.
Yeah, the Count and the Countess. Yeah, they were both great. But yeah, 145 to 147 hours now that me and Gabe have been jumping back in for the Coliseum mode. So that's my Where Did the Time Go?
Jake, what do you got?
This is my only one that's off the wall a little bit. Everything else is pretty in line. The game I played the most this year was old school RuneScape.
Nice. That's awesome. And give us the hours though. How many hours? I mean, obviously you've played old school RuneScape over many years, it seems. But what do you have? How much hours you have on old school RuneScape?
I could look it up. I don't want to right now.
It's scary.
I don't want to put myself on blast. But a lot of my friends that play RuneScape got back into it this year, and so there was a lot of times where I was on Discord up late at night, just like doing bosses. Like all me and my friends are finally at a point in RuneScape where we have like pretty late game builds and equipment. So it's like we finally get to do all like the really hard bosses. And for me, that game is still so supported by the company that makes it. And so like to be able to play all the new stuff that came out in 22 is still super cool. They just came out this year with a new raid that I've been gearing up for. And so I expect in the next month or two to like start getting into that raid. So really old game, but there's a bunch of new stuff in RuneScape.
No, that's cool. I'm like curious about this. So they have old school RuneScape and then they have like new RuneScape, right? Do they update
RuneScape 3?
Okay, do they update both of them simultaneously?
Yes, they do.
That's kind of crazy.
Where is RuneScape for most supported game community? at the Game
There you
Awards.
go.
What the heck?
It is.
Actually, that's kind
I
of
could
crazy.
die on this hill that RuneScape is the best supported game of all time.
That's crazy, actually. Wow, that's pretty cool. Honestly, I feel like if we got into it, Andrew, that'd be like the death of the channel. We would just be hooked.
I played RuneScape when I was a little kid, and I could never get past the first area because I'm talking like third, fourth grade. I just did not know what was going on.
I got pretty into it back in the time when I was playing it. Like I was like going around and like doing PvP and Wildy and like doing some of the other stuff. But granted, change.
You gonna tell them the story from high school when we played RuneScape?
Which one?
Do you remember?
Okay.
So we started to play RuneScape. Me, Gabe, and our friend Sebastian started to play when we were in high school, and we never got past the first like tutorial area where you can like shut the gate on people, because Gabe would just stand there and shut the gate on people, and they didn't know how to open the gate. So,
Oh my gosh.
like right when you walk out, how to like somehow I'm like have a very vague picture of what this looked like, but you walk out of a
I remember
house
the
down a path and
context,
there's a gate, and Gabe would just continually shut the gate on people, and they couldn't get through.
Okay,
Oh
well,
my
yeah. So
gosh.
we were just trolling people because it was the first quest is that you have to go into the barn to like kill a cow and like get meat and like learn how to craft and stuff like that. And Andrew and I would just sit there and I would be just like endlessly clicking the gate so that when people click it to open it, it like instantly closes on itself. I think there's a point where like it like ends up like just shutting me off of it, and then they can open it. Oh man, just dumb trolling in high school.
That's what we did.
It's good time. Who's up next?
I'll go next. I notoriously I feel like at this point, whenever we play a game, all of us, I end up playing the least amount of hours of it. That was the case for Elden Ring, and it's still probably my top one. I think I put in 90 hours into our playthrough. I remember being under the 100-hour mark somehow, despite having played the whole game with you guys. Especially Gabe and I played that whole game together, and he somehow beat me by like 40 hours. I don't know how that's possible. That's just crazy to me. So my second place, just to give another one, since we mentioned Elden Ring, my second one would probably be Horizon Forbidden West. It might have been Monster Hunter Sunbreak, because I did try to keep up for a while there with Jake on Sunbreak the second time around. I think I ended up putting into that one like 50 to 60 hours, but I know I put in 65 hours to Forbidden West because I platinumed it.
Yeah.
And I just, for Forbidden West, for me, and this goes with God of War 2, and I've told Gabe this a lot this year, for Sony, I just kind of made like a bet with the developers in my head of if you think that this world is so perfectly crafted and every side quest has so much meaning and so much attention to detail, then I'm gonna like push that and just go to do everything. And that's what I did with Forbidden West. And so by the time I beat it, I think I had like 1 or 2 trophies left afterwards to get the platinum. I just did everything possible, and for the most part it worked out. In the end, I really enjoyed it. There's a couple crappy things, like if you eventually play it, don't do the horse races. They're terrible. But other than that, it was just a really good experience that I put a lot of time into. So
Cool.
You go ahead and finish this off, Gabe.
All right, so mine was definitely Elden Ring. I don't know where those hours went. I really don't. But I think in the end, I don't know. I should have looked it up beforehand. But yeah, I mean, it was getting close to 200 hours.
Dude,
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was just how much my build changed, and I would just get in there and like wanted to like mess with my build, or just like, I don't know, even sometimes I just love just riding around and just like trying to find every little thing that I could. If it wasn't Elden Ring, I probably would say I don't know how many hours I got into Sunbreak, but that's probably close to it. And if not, God of War Ragnarok, where I think in the end I put in around 50 to 60 hours to get the platinum. I beat it in 38 hours, and then I put in like 20 to 30 more hours just to get the platinum. And that was a great experience. And it's true, like I'm the same way. Like I don't really like I'm a very like finish a campaign and I'm done, move on to something else kind of gamer. But was Elden Ring and God of War, it definitely kind of brought me back in. So
yeah,
where'd the time go?
Where'd the time go? To put it in perspective, when we played Splatoon 3, all 4 of us played Splatoon 3. I checked the time on it the other day. I played between 20 and 30 hours. I think each of you had put in over 50 or around 40, 50, or 60 hours each of you. And I only put in around 20. It's just like, that's how it goes, I guess. That's how it goes. All right.
You're efficient.
Yeah, I guess I'm just really efficient. Yeah.
We were
Our
lunch
next-
gamers too with that game. But
Yeah, that's
That's
true.
true.
That's true. The next one is The One That Got Away. So which game did you want to play that came out this year, but you just didn't have the time for? Jake, start us off.
Call to the Lamb. Christian and Gabe talked so much about it, and I just didn't put it on my plate to play. It's like relatively high on my backlog, but of course the Game Awards announcements push some of that stuff around. So we'll see if I get to it in the future.
Gabe, what do you got?
Mine's an easy one. I'm gonna list my 3 though.
It's an easy one, but here's 3 that I have to mention.
Okay, so the easy one is definitely Horizon Forbidden West. I mean, man, I wanted to play that game. I really did. I know we got some haters in the chat here, but some of it is understandable, to be honest. But yeah, I just felt like it just came around the worst possible time it could have came out. Just like right around the time of Elden Ring. Like, why? Why did you do that? And then I was just finishing Sifu, went right into Horizon right before we went off this Gentleman Summit, and then like came back and just like didn't play it. And I've gone back to try to play it twice before, but I think it's a game that like I'm just not in the mood for. And like I think this year playing God of War, I realized that like I just don't love open world games, but I like God of War was more like an open zone game. And so I am gonna give the time of day. I put the money onto it, so I have to play it. That's just the way I am. So I'm gonna try to play it this year for sure. My other 2 were Ollie World, game that Andrew talked very highly of, and I have on my Switch. And then other one was Pokemon Scarlet, another game that Andrew also talked really highly of. Yes, but I do really want to play with my little brother because I got it for his birthday. So and he's been like, "Oh, I want to play with you, Gabu." So
yeah, if you wait for some patches, which may or may not come.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Shout out to Irvin for the Plague Tale Requiem on the backlog. That is definitely, to me, one that I would like to play, and I'm going to put on the backlog. Don't know if I'm ever going to get to it, but one of those ones for sure. All right,
yeah,
Christian.
especially since it's on Game Pass. That one's an easy one,
Exactly.
But take it away, Christian.
Game Pass games make perfect backlog games. Go ahead, Christian.
Yep.
Sifu for me, you guys talked a lot about it, and you were like, I really think you'd like it.
Sifu is a Christian game for sure.
100%.
And so I do want to put that actually on my backlog and play it, especially as it got a nomination. Like, and I know that like since it came out, there's been easy mode and stuff. I think I would really enjoy it, and it's just one that just never got around to. But I'm going to put it on my backlog.
Maria, good call on Darktide. We are playing Darktide right now. It's a game that wants you to play a lot of it. The progression is a little bit stingy. Okay, yep. I'm up. The one that got away from me is also Call of the Lamb. Call of the Lamb is like a very Andrew game, and it just, I don't know why, I just missed it. It's frustrating. It feels like I need to play it on the Switch, but I have it on PlayStation, and so that kind of threw me off for a long time, to where it was like, oh, I have it on PlayStation, I'm not going to pay for it on Switch, and that just constantly held me back from playing it. And so it's really high up there for me in my backlog. I don't know. I'm the same with Jake, where there's a couple of Game Award games now that I'd like to play, like Hades now. I'd like to play. I'd like to go back and do Cyberpunk and stuff like that. Yeah. My other one, because I know Jake mentioned Call of the Lamb, was actually totally out of left field. Fire Emblem 3 Hopes, the Musou Fire Emblem game, because I loved Age of Calamity. Amazing. Age of Calamity was way better than it was supposed to be, and so I actually did buy. I just recently bought 3 Hopes because it was on sale for $27, which for a Switch game is pretty crazy. So I have it. I just have not even remotely started playing it because it's gonna be a time sink. But yes, Fire Emblem 3 Hopes weirdly is a backlog game for me. All right, good stuff. Moving on, we've got Drop the Ball. Which game did you play that disappointed you, or is there a game that you didn't play because it reviewed so poorly and that equally disappointed you? Gabe, I know you feel really passionate about a game that just came out recently. I'm going to let you start this one off.
All right, cool. So, yeah, for me, it was the Callisto Protocol. I was like, throughout the whole year when that game was announced, like I was like, that is such a me game. Like it's
I have Fantasy too.
Yeah, you had it on fantasy, and like I was thinking about drafting it for so long, but then it didn't get a release date. Then my draft got full. Then you drafted it. I was jealous about that.
It's so terrible.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know. It's just everything was so poised for that game to be good. Maybe not like amazing, but I think for the kind of games that I like to play in horror and stuff like that, I felt like I would have really liked it. And then it's just like drop the ball. It just is so bad. And then like not even that, because there's like I remember I watched like I started looking at a couple of reviews, just reading them, and I was like, okay, but like maybe I would still like it. And then hearing and then watching like deep reviews about it and people actually talk about the gameplay and seeing the game, I was like, I do not think I would like this. I just felt like the combat was like terrible. So yeah, that was for me was the drop the ball. Real sad about that one.
Yeah. Jake, why don't you follow that up?
Stray for me. Like I said, I played it. I enjoyed the first half, and then the second half kind of dragged for me. I don't know if that's because I took a 2-week break in between starting and finishing that game, but when I came back to it, I really just kind of didn't love how the whole game played out, even though I really enjoyed the first hour and a half I played of it.
Yeah. I think the drop the ball segment also makes sense for a game that starts off really strong, and then by the end you're like, I did not enjoy that. I'll use that as a perfect segue, because mine was for sure Dying Light 2, because it started off when Gabe and I first started that game together. We were like, whoa, this is gonna be really good, and by the end we were so ready for that game to be finished. We were just done with it. The co-op experience was not built for you to play entirely together, which we're going to get to as kind of spoiler alert for the review that's probably coming out tomorrow. But yeah, it just was really frustrating because it started off so strong and there was a lot of promise in it. Everybody's been telling us to play Dying Light for years now. And so we did it. We played Dying Light 2 and it just kind of disappointed by the end. My follow-up to that was Salt and Sacrifice. That was one of my most anticipated co-op games of the year because Salt and Sanctuary was very good. Salt and Sacrifice was not that great. Also started off strong, but by the end was like, this is not that good. So those are definitely my two drop the ball. Both co-op games. This is a weird This is a weird year for us because we do skew positive. I think naturally just because we have fun playing games together, we're gonna skew positive. We had a lot of games that disappointed us from the co-op perspective. So
yeah, I feel like when you play games with people, there's kind of like that aspect of it. Even if it's a bad game, you can just kind of make your own
you're
fun.
Having fun with your friends, no matter what, because they're your friends.
And I think that's that's like more the most damning aspect of some of those games. It's like even though like you can make your own fun, like even Dying Light 2, we just still couldn't like make our own fun in, or even Salt and Sacrifice. And then Maria brought one up. We Were Here Forever. That's another one that like disappointed us in the sense of like, we didn't really finish it. It felt like the logic puzzles just weren't our kind of game, and I don't know. It wasn't a great time by the end. But yeah.
All right, Christian, finish us up. What's your drop the ball game?
Do you want to know?
I'm scared.
Both of the Pokemon games this year were trash.
Yeah,
they're both bad. Like it's so frustrating that like I'm been a fan. One of the first games I ever played in my life like was Pokemon Blue. I always wanted to like love those games, but it just is. I played Arceus, and I really felt like by the end, even though people talked about how much fun they were having, how different it was, how much it diverted from the usual like series, just wasn't enough, man. Too many technical issues, like on both sides. I didn't play Violet because I like waited for reviews. I got a 72, the lowest rated
it's
Pokemon
so
game
crazy.
of all
I can't
time.
believe that I drafted that and paid that much money for it, and it got a 72.
I know.
That is
so
wild.
many people are saying it's still so fun. It's still so fun. I'm like personally getting a little bit tired of getting Nintendo passes on things, especially Game Freak when it comes to that. And so for me, I feel like they both dropped the ball, and it's the first mainline Pokemon game I didn't play, and probably won't play it unless they really patch something in and make it beautiful. But
You hate to hear that from a fan. You hate to hear that, honestly.
Yeah. No, I totally respect that. The context behind that is that Gabe and I both played Arceus and really liked it, and I just played Scarlet and ended up really liking it. But I totally like. I'm not even going to argue against you because I totally see that perspective 100%. Especially obviously with Scarlet, the technical issues are like embarrassingly bad. And it's just, if anybody were to be like, yeah, this game's absolute trash, and substitute worse words for that, I'd be like, yeah, no, I get that. That's 100% true. All right, good stuff.
Someone needs to name their publisher for the 2023 league Trash Freak.
That's pretty good. Or Glitch Freak or something like that.
Glitch Freak is actually that'd be like a solid name for a company, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd be like, that's cool.
All right, we're kind of we're the king of segues today. We've really been nailing it, because now we're talking about the unpopular opinion. Pokemon they got a lot of unpopular opinions this year. The game you just don't get why people like it, whether you played it or not. Jake, get us going.
Horizon.
Ooh,
there it is.
give us the argument.
We have so many differing opinions between just four people. It's amazing.
I have a spicy one.
I played the first Horizon game, and I enjoyed it for what it was, and I think the story's so meh, and I think it's one of those open world games that's plagued with all the just random bullshit markers that you're just like, go here and kill a super robot, or go here and activate the tower. It's like so much stuff to do that doesn't feel important, and it just feels like the game is full of things to distract you. And like even the stuff, if you're just gonna speed run the story, I think the story is so mid, and I think Aloy is kind of a boring main character.
I can definitely agree with that last part. Aloy is a very boring character. That's 100%
but like
true.
I think the combat has cool moments, but like all the RPG aspects of the first game I really didn't like. Like all like the skill trees and the crafting and all that stuff was just too, I don't know. It kind of felt like a bunch of different games mashed into one for me, and I don't think that game is, I don't think it's bad. I just don't think that game is like good at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's a series that now is getting like automatic 9s, so I can get why it's like, okay, well that is pretty intense to just basically.
It's like a 7 for me.
Yeah. All right, Christian, what you got?
Man, I won't talk much more about Pokemon because I saved that for the last category, but I think this is unpopular, truly. I don't think it's unpopular to hate on Pokemon. I think Kirby this year was something I anticipated like really liking and being like, oh man, the first 3D Kirby, it's gonna be so good. And then I put it on wild, quote unquote, quote, wild mode. And it was like the easiest game I've ever played in my life.
Yeah.
It's like definitely a baby game, family game. Like, I don't know. I just didn't think it was as entertaining. I don't think they've made it. Here's my unpopular opinion. I don't think they've made a great Kirby game since Crystal Shards. Like, that was the one where they innovated, they did something different, and then since then they've gone back to the formula every single time. So I played it, got through it, and was like, I can't wait to be done with this game. One of the first Nintendo games, like mainline Nintendo games, I've felt that way. And then if you want one I didn't play, Xenoblade 3, but we don't have to talk about it.
Yeah,
that's funny.
That's a whole conversation. I'll go next. Mine is like not unpopular amongst us because it was three of us because Garrett was our fourth guy for that. But I just was really just not into Tiny Tina's in the end. And it got good reviews, and a lot of people talked about how it was going to be a great co-op game, and that's a whole conversation because reviewers did not have the ability to play it in co-op, which is ironic because a lot of them talked about how good it'll be in co-op, and I just think they totally missed a lot of those mechanics.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely a 1 step forward, 3 steps back because I liked the setting of it. The whole Dungeons and Dragons thing was cool, and they played on that well, but the rest of it to me was just so incredibly mid. So yeah, not unpopular amongst us, but amongst reviewers, Tiny Tina's reviewed a little bit better than what we would have thought. Gabe, why don't you finish us?
This one in a funny direction. My number one was Kirby and the Forgotten Lands. And I actually didn't think of anything else until just now, because I wasn't expecting that from Christian. I do now remember that you weren't like in love with it. Yeah. But yeah, that was my number one. just could not be bothered to ever play one of those games. I don't know. And I also like, I mean, I'm definitely the least Nintendo person here. Like, I'll play them mostly because Andrew will convince me. But even like, okay, like last night when you guys were kind of like, oh my God, Odyssey 2. I played Odyssey. I did love it. I do think it's a stellar game. But like, even Odyssey 2 probably would not have like blown my socks
I would
away.
have lost my mind.
I really wouldn't.
That
Like,
is
I would have been
popular
like,
opinion, bro. Holy
It's
guacamole.
yeah. There's your unpopular opinion.
Yeah, that's the hottest take of the day.
so my number 2 was going to be Tiny Tina's, but you took that. So I'll kind of give you maybe not as much of a spicy one, but Sniper Elite 5. We played that. I liked it. But I do think that like I see it on almost everybody's like game of the year list, and it got so much hype around the time that it came out. And I don't know, like I think I went into it with a lot more hype, and then once we kind of got into it, I was like, this is fun. It's kind of like dumb fun, and it's funner in co-op for sure. But like I couldn't get why people were so hyped about it. So
Yeah.
that's my unpopular opinion.
I carried our like sort of more positive vibes on that one a little bit more than you, and it's in the end it didn't. Spoiler alert: it might not make it on our top 10. We'll see. We'll have to see. Anyway, good stuff. That was some good takes, some good unpopular opinions. I feel like mine was the least spicy. All right, our next one is a good one. We got all of our negative stuff out of the way with the drop the ball and the unpopular opinion right back to back. Now we can talk good stuff. What was the highest fun factor game? The game that you just may not have been like the critically best game like Elden Ring. Could have been. I don't know. But which one did you just have like so much joy playing? Christian, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I'd love to. You guys might already know my answer from our chat because every time they mention Neon White, I put a smiley face. But I had so much fun playing that game, man. It was so good, so fast, so enjoyable to like try and get golds or platinums the entire time. Like the FPS, like speedrunning game, I've just never played anything like that where I was like, I'm gonna play this level over and over and over until I get the fastest time that I can. And I just think like, yeah, the story stuff was like really mid, and like not that fun to engage with, but the levels themselves were an absolute blast. And I think that they did a really good job. I think Gabe would agree, like with the variance between all the levels as well. Like they constantly added like a little bit of a new mechanic here, a little bit of a new mechanic there, a new gun that does a different thing. And it was just enough the entire time to keep you just like flowing and interested. And by the end, it like really wrapped up in this like amazing last couple set of levels where you're doing everything you learned. And I just had a blast. I'm a huge fan of Neon White.
The last two chapters were fantastic. I was very like unsure about it for about the first 4 or 5, maybe even 6. I think there was 12 chapters. But man, by the end, the pacing just picks up, and you just like get the full move set, and oh gosh, that
so
that is a fun game. Yeah, Jake, why don't you go number 2 here?
Mine was Splatoon 3. Just the number of times that we played Splatoon 3 on our collective work lunch breaks, just to hop on and I don't know. Nintendo, as annoying as they can be sometimes, makes very fun games to play with your friends, even if Splatoon 3 has some horrible matchmaking and lobby mechanics. When I was in game playing Splatoon, I had a lot of fun playing that game.
Yeah. I put Splatoon 3 as my number 2 for fun factor for the same reason. It's just like when we were actually all in there playing, even though we got wrecked a lot, when we weren't getting wrecked and we were like everything was working, it just felt like so much fun. That's why I like Splatoon 3. Is it just feels so different than your usual FPS, to where you could get totally wrecked, but like there's different ways to play to kind of enjoy it more, even if you're not as good at FPSs.
And getting into some of the other modes other than just turf wars towards the end of our playtime together, like those were really fun. Clan Blitz is super cool. Area control is super cool.
I agree.
Yeah, I just had a lot of fun.
For me, for both of my highest fun factors, Splatoon 3 was one of them, and it's just kind of the theme for both of them. I just wish I had more time in the day to play both these games. I end up putting in the least amount of time for Splatoon 3, and I hate that because I just wish I could have kept playing it regularly, and I hope that eventually I could go back and play it regularly. But then my number one for highest fun factor was Multiversus. I constantly wish I was playing Multiversus instead of whatever I'm doing. I just loved it. I had so much fun with that. And it was also because Gabe and I got weirdly good at it and we're winning 90% of our matches, which I did not see coming. And yeah, every single match would just have these like crazy high moments. That was probably my most fun I've ever had putting together a review video. Like as I was video editing it, I just had a smile on my face the whole time. Because you just have all those dunks and all those plays where you're like, oh, dude, we're down by one. What are we going to do? And we somehow bring it back. And like the progression of getting really good at one character and then getting really good at another character and then finding Tom and Jerry at the end. It's like, whoa, I really like Tom and Jerry. It just, yeah, I wish I was playing Multiversus way more than I am. And luckily it's free to play and it's still getting updated. So there is the fact that I will get back to it eventually when I'm a little bit less busy. Gabe, what was your highest fun factor?
All right, so those two that you guys have mentioned were on my top of my list, Multiversus, Splatoon 3. Definitely Multiversus was I would say was my number one, just because I am not even like, I think out of all four of us, like I've played the least amount of Smash throughout my life, and I don't typically play super competitive games. But man, I got really into Multiversus to the point that I was like going in there to like practice my moves. I was watching other people play Tom and Jerry or play Bugs Bunny. Like I was getting into that sort of like, I want to get good. And so that I think was super different for me. If I wouldn't say those two, I want to give some flowers to Evil Dead the game. That was just super fun. I mean, that was a game that I was like, I hadn't even watched Evil Dead the movie. Like I watched it, I think like after the first time we played it. But I was like dying to play one of those asymmetrical games, and then we got Andy and James to play that with us, and Garrett. We had all five of us, and I just remember that first session. Everyone was like, "Wait, this is like a lot of fun, like a lot more fun than any of us expected it to be." And even like time flew by, like when we were playing that game, when we were all like, just like, oh wow, like I can't believe it's already been an hour, and like trading, like being like the evil, like the demon type of person, and like getting good at that, and like also just the shenanigans in that game. Like the driving in that game was absolutely terrible, but it was so fucking funny. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I think back to it, and that's a game that I've kind of brought myself back to, of like, man, if we can kind of get another Evil West or Evil Dead little session in here, that'd be super fun, especially with the updates that they've had. So some flowers for Evil Dead the game.
That's a good call.
Ended up watching all the other movies too.
I totally forgot about Evil Dead the game, and we did have so much fun when we were playing it, so much so that I was going outside of our playtime just to play as the demon, because I just wanted to keep practicing and get better, so that when we played together I was a better demon. The only thing that held that game back was, remember, the private games didn't have progression, which makes sense to some degree. And so it just was like, we would get wrecked anytime we didn't play in a private match, because we wanted to mostly play in private matches, and that was disappointing. But yeah, that was a ton of fun. Good call out, dude. Good call out. Okay, the game that made you feel something, whether it was some sort of emotion like sadness or sorrow or joy or anger. All of these emotions are valid for this category. And I'm going to start this one off because it took me a little bit to think of one, and so I need to make sure I get it out of the way. This for me is a game that gave me anger and frustration because I gave it my heart. I gave it my fantasy critic money. I gave it my time, and it betrayed me. And that was Super Mario Strikers Charge. And I love Nintendo. I give Nintendo passes all the time. That's like a theme throughout this whole show we're doing, is I love Nintendo and I'm willing to give them a lot of grace, but I will never get over the fact that somehow a game that was built around playing with a squad of people online doesn't allow you to play with 4 people at a time. Only 2 people. That is madness. That makes absolutely 0 sense and completely ruined that game. It's crazy how one tiny decision, to me, took a game that has some really solid gameplay. Like, actually playing that game, I had fun, and just totally makes it worthless. It just felt like there wasn't anything to do anymore. And I got online and we had that little squad going, and I would play matches on my own. But it's just like, yeah, if you can't play with all 3 of your teammates and you can only play with 2, I just didn't see the point anymore. And so, yeah, I was very disappointed and frustrated with that game because I just anticipated it very highly. And I guess I could have put it for Drop the Ball, but I had more anger for this than I did for Dying Light 2 or Salt and Sacrifice. So that is my feelings on Mario Strikers Charge. Christian, why don't you follow me up?
Oh man, the game that made me feel something was Citizen Sleeper. I know I'm the only one that really can advocate for that game here. You guys, Andrew's played a little bit of it, but realistically, man, that game's so good. It's like so narrative driven. Like if God of War is the best narrative of the year, like I think Citizen Sleeper is my second favorite like narrative.
Wow.
Is potentially a little bit more emotionally charged. Just dealing with like real life stuff. It's set in a fantasy like or a sci-fi setting, but dealing with like real life people and the fallout of like greedy corporations and the people that you deal with as a result of that. And yeah, I got like my first ending and almost put the game down because I was so satisfied with like the experience that I had. I went back and played more and was like, wow, like there's so much more here. And on top of that, it just like it's a story about it's not real people obviously, but it's a story about people that you could actually encounter in a situation like this and what they would go through and how you can help. And it was really, really well done. So one of my favorite experiences that made me feel something this year.
What feeling did it give you? If you could
there's definitely like sadness.
A range of emotions.
Yeah, it's just definitely sadness involved. Definitely like some sacrifice.
Whoa.
Like I don't know if that's a feeling, but like the desire to put others in front of yourself too. Dude. Like that was really like prevalent in it, and like just but there is like some happy moments, but I would say it's mostly like some feelings of kind of like desperation. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, really, really good. Can't advocate for it more. It's definitely a unique experience. Like it's not super gameplay heavy. It's mostly like a narrative focused experience, but it's still really, really well done.
Yeah. I played an hour and a half of it, but unfortunately I was trying to play it on my phone via Game Pass streaming, and that kind of took away from it because I liked what I was doing, but it's text very small, so that did not work out.
Oh my god, that's awesome, man! If that didn't sell you on Citizen Sleeper, though, I mean, it sold me.
Good way to go, Christian. A real salesman. All right, Jake, what game made you feel something?
I am sitting here trying to think of something else because mine was also Mario Strikers.
It's okay. We can just take a giant dump on that game. It's fine.
For a lot of the same reasons, yeah.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
That game's stupid. That game's so fun and so dumb. It's just I don't think I ever want to play that game again because I'm so mad at it. Just like the weekend it came out, we went over to Christian's house and had like 4 people playing game, or 5 people, 6 people, like rotating in and out of games. That was so fun, but it was so stupid because you need 2 Switches with 2 copies of Mario Strikers to be able to play 4 people in local co-op to get online together. And like, even if like me and Gabe wanted to play together and you and Christian wanted to play and it was like 4, it'd be like I'd have to go over to Gabe's house and Christian would have to go over to Andrew's house. You can't just, the fact that there's not 4-player multiplayer, even online, I don't know.
It's baffling.
Nintendo hates online gaming.
Yeah,
honestly, they have a vendetta against it.
They're like, that's not how it's meant to be played.
That's crazy.
Well, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, and they didn't even like. What was the first free update they added? Who did they add?
They've added characters and I think like fields and then new armor. I think 2 or 3 times now.
I think they added Daisy and Shy Guy.
They've added Daisy, Shy Guy, Paulina, Diddy Kong. I think there's been 2 updates. I think those are the 4 characters they've added.
I don't know. And they removed like the single player mode from previous Strikers games.
That's a whole conversation of just Nintendo's sports games for the Switch have been consistently disappointing. I think the best one has probably been the tennis one.
Aces was good,
yeah,
but it not
had
great.
Like the gameplay mechanics that they had set up was really impressive when you like dig deep into it. But just like the whole game as a package was just kind of all right. Golf was really frustrating, especially as a follow-up to the 3DS. And then we've already talked about Striker's Charge. So
Andrew, I'm probably the person that plays the second most Nintendo sports games.
Mm-hmm.
So I mirror a lot of your sentiments on strikers, aces, and golf.
I feel your plight.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish speed golf was cooler.
Mm-hmm. All right, Gabe, finish us off. What made you feel something?
Cool. I'm gonna go with Pentiment. I played that super recently, so it's very just there on my mind right now. But honestly, everything that Christian said for Citizen Sleeper, I could say for Pentiment. It's like this really weird little artsy game. It's like 2D. It's made by Obsidian. The game director of this game was the one who did New Vegas. So the dialogue is like excellent, and that's all you do in this game. All you do is just walk around and you talk to people, and there's like some really good dialogue options, but there's like the kind of things that like you have to talk to people and like say certain things to like convince them of something. But I think what Christian said really nailed it in the head. Like I just felt like I was playing this game with these NPCs that felt like real people, and even though they're like it's set in like Bavaria, like Victorian era or whatever it was, like super old times. Like I felt like their problems were real problems, and it was I don't know. Like the game's also told in 3 acts, and each act like fast forwards in the timeline, so you see the game over like 3 generations almost. And like to see like one character who like in the first act is like a little girl, and then in the third act she's like a woman, and you kind of see her character arc and like the way the town is affected by everything. It's also a murder mystery game, which I really liked. I don't know. I think it was all the characters in the town felt like real people, and I think that made me feel like a range of emotions of like in the third act comes around and like the girl's grown up, but like I think her father dies and you're just like, oh man, that sucked. You're like really sad about it. Or just even like good things that happen to the characters. I don't know. It was really cool, and it was on Game Pass, so it was just like it was a very easy experience in that sense. So range of emotions for Pentiment, throwing some flowers towards it.
Nice. I'm surprised nobody said. I mean, you guys have all finished Ragnarok. Nobody said Ragnarok. I assume that this category was essentially the Ragnarok category of like feeling something. We don't no spoilers. I'm assuming you felt something during that story if it was so good. But
I think we would have all said some sort of Ragnarok, but one, not spoiling it for you and don't want to spoil it for the chat. Yeah, I think we all agree. Like, I think the 3 of us who've been, it's like, they're definitely, I mean, I'm just going to say the last line of the game, or like one of the last lines of the game, I've already told Christian and Jake both that is like insane. So you'll know it when you get there, bro. And you'll know it when you get there, chat.
Yeah, I think God of War is like definitely my second. I think if I like didn't give Fire to Citizen Sleeper here, I wouldn't have given it anywhere, you know, because it's not gameplay focused. So I had to talk about it, but God of War like definitely my second favorite. Like narrative made me feel something.
Mm-hmm. All right, the next one I feel like we can get through a little bit quicker. It's the Get Good, the hardest game you played. I felt like for me, I didn't play a lot of hard games this year. I'll start us off. I talked earlier about how I didn't think Sifu was as hard as people made it out to be. I do think it was a hard game. It took playing the bosses over and over and over again, but I didn't think it was crazy. But I didn't play a whole lot of hard games. I didn't think Elden Ring in the end was that hard because I played it in co-op entirely. So that obviously totally changes how difficult the game is. And so, yeah, for me, it just is an easy Sifu. But even that, I'm not like, this is so... Sekiro, it's not Sekiro. And that will always be, to me, the like gold standard of Get Good. Gabe, what do you got for Get Good?
I got 3 I can throw out. But I'd probably say God of War Ragnarok. And I wouldn't say like the story or like the campaign, but really like the post game stuff was really hard. Especially like the last boss was like really, really hard. And I think it took me over 20 tries, honestly. Like I was just sitting there like banging my head against the wall, just like, oh my God, I need to beat this. Bye, Maria. Thanks for joining us. So I think that was, especially because I think by the end of the game and you're kind of doing the hardest content, like you got to take everything that you got. And I was going through and even doing like like all the different moves and like upgrading them and being like, okay, well maybe I should try this move against this boss because this move isn't quick enough. So I felt like that was really hard. Elden Ring wasn't as hard, but there was that one boss that you and I did together, the blood guy. That was hard.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that one. Yeah, he
That
was tough.
Like we were switching around our whole builds just to like beat
once
this
we
guy.
did the fly thing, I think
Yes.
it was, that got easier. But before that, there were points where we were like, are we just not going to get this platinum now? Because we can't beat this guy. You're totally right.
That was harder for you guys than Millennia?
Yeah, well, because we had the three of us. Because that's what I was thinking earlier for Elden Ring. I didn't think it was that hard because my memory wasn't of him. It was of Melania. And it was hard. It took us several tries, for sure. But once we got it, we kind of knocked it out again and again because we had to do it for all three of us.
Or freaking Elden Beast?
Elden Beast was more annoying than anything else.
Yeah. Elden Beast was just like, just annoying. I would say the Millennia thing was like you had to learn to fight, and then once you did, you were like, okay, and that's hard in its own right. But I think Moog, I think it was his name, he was hard because one, there was a whole mechanic around the fact that like he did that blood thing, so you have to time like the one like item. Remember, like he did like a blood thing where like he would like race his thing and he'd say these like weird chants like Ishi, blah blah blah, and you had to time this one item so that you wouldn't get this like insane blood loss debuff. But honestly, like we were just not damaging this guy at all, like
That's
at
so
all.
Funny. That boss was not hard for me, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
It's just like build diversity, which is weird.
Yeah,
I think he was like really weak to like holy damage or something.
Yeah, I mean that might have been it, but I mean we were trying everything. So then we ended up like doing this thing where like we just went with massive blood loss because he was kind of weak to that too. And I ended up wearing this like dumb helmet just so that I can have enough arcane to do the blood flies spell. So like that was crazy. And I'm gonna throw another one, Dune Spice Wars. I played that. It was early access. It's like the first like real strategy game I've ever played, and that had like a huge learning curve just because of that. Just because I was like, I've never played a strategy game in that sense, and I was like, whoa, this is like so overwhelming. So those are my had to get good.
Nice. Jake, what made you have to get good?
After you guys stopped playing Monster Hunter, I did a bunch of Master Rank quests by myself.
Yep.
And Master Rank solo Monster Hunter quests are no joke. They, similar thing to how it probably feels playing Elden Ring with 3 people. The boss can really only focus one person at a time. In Monster Hunter, I learned a different weapon because Gunlance was too hard for me to play solo against some of these late game Master Rank, monsters. I just like couldn't get the DPS I needed, couldn't get the stuns or knockouts that I was getting when we played with Christian. Wasn't getting like any tails by myself, so I switched to a different weapon, kind of relearned how to play the game with a different weapon, and still got slapped around by the late game monsters. Yes, that is definitely for me. Specifically solo. When it's with you guys, it's a lot easier, but the solo quests are a lot harder.
So you're just saying you missed your boys.
I did, yeah. It is nice having someone that just bonks the monster on the head so I can do full DPS.
That's that guy.
That's our boy.
That's Christian. The bunker.
That's funny.
That's good. All right, Christian, what made you get good?
Dude, Splatoon 3, I suck at that game.
Like, we got wrecked sometimes, man. We got wrecked sometimes.
Dude, I was thinking about the hardest games I played this year. I was like, Elden Ring's not that bad. God of War's been like, okay. Like, yeah, there's been moments. But honestly, I go back to like those matches where you just can't do anything and you're getting 70%ed and you're like, I'm an adult.
We never got
like,
70%ed.
Why can't I beat these
We never got
kids,
70%ed.
That's true. We never did. We got close.
Oh gosh, I just felt like I was like, it was the biggest swings of my life where I was like, I'm a god, 16-0, like I'm so amazing, and then okay, I can't get out of the base, guys, I can't do it. So I felt like I needed to get good at that game. I don't know what it was.
What was funny about playing Splatoon with you guys is it made me realize how few like online competitive games you guys play.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not that I'm like insane at Splatoon, but there were moments where you guys were like getting a little heated in some online Met lobbies, and I was like, "Oh, these guys don't play.
Yeah,
these guys don't play online competitive games."
You're so right.
Gabe and I were also coming off a multiversus for that one, where we were like, again, I don't know how we were doing as well as we were on that, because we're used to playing PvP games and being like very average, like aggressively average. And then you get to Splatoon 3 and it was like, yeah, there were matches where it was demoralizing. Because you also think when you're playing Splatoon 3, you reference it, you think you're playing kids. And it's like, no,
right.
I've been gaming my entire life. What's wrong with me? But yeah, Splatoon 3, man, it'll get you.
It'll get you.
Okay, this category to me was the toughest to decide. I legitimately have 4 games on here.
Wait, did we do Christian get good?
Yeah, he just said Splatoon 3.
Oh, you're right. Next.
So I'm gonna save myself for last for this because I have several games that I don't gotta go into detail. I'm just gonna give them some nice shout outs. But what was the absolute bopping soundtrack for you, Jake? What was the bop?
Monster Hunter.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was good. Last boss was amazing too.
My wife still to this day will ask me to play the Monster Hunter soundtrack like just on the Google Home occasionally.
Nice.
The music's so good. Especially because every monster has their own soundtrack and every area has its own soundtrack. So it's like moving between area to area, fighting new monsters. You have all the new soundtracks. And then with the DLC, like new area, you get like soundtracks there. Monster Hunter has beautiful music.
Yeah.
And just like...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, which monster was the dark one with like the claws on its wings?
Gore Magala.
That one soundtrack was the one I remember the most. Was just like, oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah. The final boss of the DLC also has like insane music too.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Christian, what was your biggest bop of the year?
Take it in a different direction. I didn't even play this game, but I was looking just in anticipation of our chats at some different soundtracks from this year, doing some research. Dude, Ollie World, what the heck, man?
Yeah, man.
That soundtrack's a bop.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. If you haven't heard
awesome.
this song, I'm posting in chat, like it's amazing. It's so good. I was like very surprised with like it's not like self-produced. They like got a bunch of like essentially lo-fi beats, but they got the best ones. I'll tell you that. They're so good, man.
That's awesome.
Definitely check it out. The lo-fi beats on Ollie World are fantastic.
It's on my long list of best bops is Ollie World. The vibe of that game, I'm the only one in this group that's played it. You got to play Ollie World. So good.
I know. I need to go back now.
All right.
Yeah, seriously.
Gabe, what was your biggest bop? Feel free to steal several off my list.
Well, I can't believe Christian didn't say it, but I mean, Cloud9.
I knew you were going to.
Oh man, like I just thought like the Neon White soundtrack was so good. It was so stupid, honestly. Like they were just saying these random words. But like when it got going and you're moving super fast and you're stringing everything together, you're just like, it's also just such a different genre of music. It feels like it's like discotheque, like whatever. Like it just feels super weird. So I felt like that was a really, really good one. Obvious one, God of War, the bum bum bum. I mean, that's just epic.
Gives you goosebumps every time.
Yep. I will say Sifu. I think this is definitely on your list, probably, Andrew. I thought the Sifu soundtrack was really good, like especially like on the nightclub level, where like it just like gets through the music and like the bosses each had a really good soundtrack. And it went through a couple different genres. Like it went through like, like nightclub had like all these like crazy, beats going to it. But then like the museum level had this very like understated, and then it gets really creepy and it's like very classical music. So I felt like that was just also really, really good. I'm gonna stick with those 3. I'm excited to see your long list.
Well, for me, the hardest part about this one was the recency bias. It just felt like it was hard to go back in time and be like, what were the best soundtracks? Ollie World is one I played really early in the year, but I remembered. Shredder's Revenge, we played about halfway through the year.
Yes.
Shredder's Revenge had a great
Classic.
soundtrack. And then I had the recency biases ones. Pokemon Scarlet, fantastic soundtrack. Like
I've heard that.
The gym leader song, when it like picks up and you do the terrestrializing, amazing. So good. And then
I haven't even played that, and I won't play it. But like in the trailers, I was like,
yes,
oh,
it is one of the better. I mean, Pokemon soundtracks are always really good, And but this one is one of the better ones for sure.
Sounds like you're in an arena. Like it's like it's amazing.
It's so good. It's so good. Anyway, Ship of Fools we just played recently, and I thought that was a really fun soundtrack, especially the final boss. Just like, oh my gosh, dude, it jams for that final boss. And then finally, the ultimate recency bias, because we're literally playing it right now, so we're not gonna be able to shout out anything else. Warhammer 40k Darktide soundtrack is next level good. Like, oh my gosh, this soundtrack, when you get going and you
is
get
it like
that
metal or what? Like what kind of music is it?
It's like a weird mix. Like sometimes it's like metal, but most of the time it's like weirdly electronic, but it's like really dark. It's like
you get the voices. Yes. It's very, everything about the game is extra grimdark. They just poured the grimdark sauce on, and you get like that orchestra sound, like that choir sound, and they're like, oh,
the orchestra.
It was just man. The way,
sorry.
I think why I really like Warhammer 40Ks, not just because it sounds good, is because it picks up at the right time. Like that game knows how to pace itself within the missions really well, and the music is like the cherry on top to that. So yeah, worth listening even if you don't play the game. Warhammer soundtrack. All right, we're getting close. We're getting close to the end. We got 2 more awards. We're first going to go with the MVP, the favorite character in a 2022 game. Which character really pulled together the game? Gabe, why don't you start us off with that?
I feel like my picks are kind of dumb. I didn't go as much. I didn't go as much with like characters that I like connected with as much as characters that I just felt were cool or like kind of like iconic. The lamb from Cult of the Lamb, which is stupid, but like I just felt like that design is so cool, and like they made plushies of it, and like I don't know, like I liked embodying that character and like making like, you know, you can even switch around his little fleece. Neon White, the character, he was so stupid. Like his voice,
he was
and, like,
so stupid.
his voice, and like when he got like shy around other characters, or when characters flirted, when he flirted back. What were some of the things he would say when you finish a mission? That was all right.
Bet you never seen something like that before.
Yes. Oh my god, it's so stupid. And then I would say, like, kind of low key pick Thrude from God of War. I just felt like she was really cool. Like, I feel like to have the characterization of like Thor's daughter, and like even just like some of the dynamics that you learn was her and the mom and Thor and the family dynamic. I just felt like that was kind of cool. And like when you're playing as Atreus and you're kind of like, oh, this is another character that's his age, and like, is there a little romance here? Are they just friends? Like, I don't know. I just thought it was cool. Like, I generally would play like a Thrude game. Like if they did a spinoff, like Uncharted Lost Legacy, but it's Thrude, I would play that. I thought she was awesome. So there you go.
Yeah, there is, Jake's right in the chat. There is basically you could just list any God of War character and it would work for MVP. Jake, what do you got?
Yep.
Odin, the All-Father himself. I thought it was not the characterization of like this, like the head of the pantheon of Norse gods. Like that's not the characterization I would have pictured when I played the game. Like, obviously no spoilers. I think Odin in God of War Ragnarok, his character is very subdued. Like he's very non-assuming in the way that he talks and the way that he looks. But you can tell just by like, you know, obviously he's the bad guy. I think that's clear without it being spoiler at all.
No, that's not spoilery.
He's so creepy because he doesn't look creepy or like sound creepy, but everyone that you interact with in the game is like, oh, Odin's the worst person in the world. And so then there's this dynamic of every time that he's on the screen, even if he doesn't look threatening, you're like, oh, there's machinations going on behind the screen, this like behind the scene that I don't understand yet, even though his character is so subtle. And whoever did the voice acting for Odin, I thought just knocked it out of the park. Like absolutely incredible. I think Odin I wanted to say Kratos for my MVP, and I was thinking about it and I was like, no, I think Odin just like was so good.
Yeah,
Every-
that's a really good one. Kathleen and I kept talking about this sort of comparison where like, did everyone watch Breaking Bad here?
Yeah.
I think so. It was like the Gus Fring. And like
Yeah.
this character who's like, you're kind of like, he's not like physically menacing, you know that he has magic and shit, that you're kind of like, you're so threatened by him just because you know he has some like crazy fucking schemes.
Yeah.
So you couldn't have said it better, Jake.
Christian, who is your MVP?
Yeah, I think that again, a character probably no one knows, but from Citizen Sleeper, Lem and Mina, it's a father-daughter duo that you interact with throughout. They were the one that I talked about where I got my first ending in that game. And god dang, if that didn't make me like a little emotional when I like finished my storyline with them. They're just like really sweet. It's a dad doing everything he can for his daughter, and like you're helping them out, and they're like really really great. It made me, yeah, I don't know, it was great. And if not that, from like a more mainline series, I'm gonna give it to my boy Brock. Brock is great, and we won't say much else about that. But yeah.
Well,
I just looked at the designs to Lemon Mina, and they look really cool. I mean, all the character designs in Citizen Sleeper are fucking amazing, but like they looked awesome.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Well, I will give my God of War pick. It's my number one. I haven't even finished the game, and my number one character MVP is from God of War, and mine's Mimir. I just love him so far. Where I'm at, he's just constantly adding so much nice context to everything. He's like a side quest hero. It's just I love him. He's so funny. I like the background you're getting on him and stuff. Yeah, Mimir is awesome. And then
He's like a good comedy break too, without being like cringy
without being
comedy.
Cringy, exactly. Yeah, they did a great job writing all of his dialogue.
That's a surprising pick too, because I think like there's also a lot of like sections in the game where like you do get into like Mimir's story and like his background, especially like that first quest was like the whale, and you're like, they took this like comedic character and then they added like some feeling to it. And you're like,
they flesh him out in so many interesting ways.
Yeah. What's up, Walla? We're talking about we're talking about our MVP of the year, your favorite character in a 2022 game. So feel free to shout him out.
And then I get one more small one.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I just forgot the best character from Elden Ring. Does anybody have a guess?
Blackguard Boggart.
Yeah, Blackguard Big Boggart. Best line of the year.
Yep.
America's tits.
The delivery.
America's tits, you must be hungry.
Okay, but like, jokes aside, that character like is kind of crazy because like if you follow his storyline, you're actually really sad as to where he ends up. Well, here let's we can kind of re-say a couple of our quick ones just for Walla here. I said Neon White from Neon White. Thrud from God of War, which I was about to say Game of Thrones, who was Thor's daughter in that game. No, you're good. And then Christian said Lemon Mina from Citizen Sleepers. It's an indie game. Is that it? Wait, yeah, Jake said Odin. That was a really good one. And then you said Mimir, Andrew from God of War.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to the ultimate MVP. LeBron James. LeBron James is an MVP in real life and in multiverses, dude. The ultimate MVP right there. I do actually really like LeBron James because he was like the moment where I was like, oh, dude, these character kits are kind of awesome. So yeah, LeBron James. And I feel like we didn't shout out, maybe it's just me, but I felt like Batgirl was really good. Gabe played as Batgirl, and I got to follow her around a lot, and that gave me like a really interesting perspective on the game that Gabe didn't get to have necessarily.
I felt Batgirl and then your character were really good. Both of them like actually had like really good storylines in that game.
Yeah. I feel like Batgirl was really well fleshed out, especially the way that I got to see her throughout the game.
No Aloy picks as like a second or third place?
No, absolutely not.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure.
I'm being totally sarcastic about the Batgirl one. I was just talking about her butt the whole time. Okay, so now we're on to my favorite category.
Oh my god,
favorite category of all of this. It was the 7 or 8 that you love like a 10. Because I just feel like every year I have those where it's like, man, that was a great game. It's not going to probably be in my top 10. It's not my top 5, but I've really, really loved it. So it's a game that you critically thought was okay or good, maybe great, but just not a masterpiece, top 5 kind of game. So, Jake, what was your 7 or 8 you loved like a 10?
This one was hard for me. I went back and kind of looked at some of the games that came out this year, what I played, because I was like, I don't know what fits into this super well. And I was looking through release calendars from this year, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel actually came out this year on Steam and mobile. And it kind of reignited how much I love Yu-Gi-Oh! And I got to play it with my friends on Discord for the first time in a long time. Like, I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh! In like 6 years, which is funny because I'm sure everyone else would be like, oh, I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh! For like 15 years. I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh! for like 6 years. But I got to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Again, and it was so good. There's so many cards. It's actually a pretty good free-to-play model, in my opinion. And it's just it automates a lot of the stuff. It's like a big deal for Yu-Gi-Oh! Players because it's like the first way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Online legally.
Nice. Shout out to Dueling Network.
Shout out to Dueling Network and Dueling Book, which got shut down. And so Master Duel was mine. I love Yu-Gi-Oh! I love card games so much, and having a way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Online for free with my friends. I did hit Diamond in that game pretty fast.
Hey.
I will brag about myself. I'm pretty good at Yu-Gi-Oh! So it was exciting to play that again.
That's amazing. Honestly, this is honestly, I think another name we could say for this one is like, what is your heart pick?
Yeah,
you know, so that was a very fitting option.
That's good.
Gabe, what is the 7 or 8 you loved like a 10 this year?
All right, I'm gonna give some flowers to Somerville, a game that like I was really excited for, and I myself can agree like didn't hit the high bar that I had for it, but it was a game that I love. It's a 7 that I love like a 10 for sure, or like an 8-ish. I don't know. I just thought they did a lot of really cool stuff. I'm excited for their next game. It carries forward that DNA from Inside and Limbo, but like took it to this like 3D plane, and like it didn't always work, but I thought the story was really cool, and like I'm a big sci-fi person, so like this had like a really cool like War of the Worlds kind of vibe to it, so I love that. If I didn't say that, I would have said Evil Dead the game. Where like I just felt like I just had so much fun with that game, and like I think for the asymmetrical genre that it was, which we've played a couple of those PvE VP games, we haven't really played as many asymmetrical games, so like I felt like that was like, oh, you know, like this actually did some really good stuff. Like I loved it more than I think a lot of people did. Yeah, it was hard. I feel like, yeah, it was hard. It was hard to find one. And then I maybe say like Ship of Fools too, where like, but like I mean I think Ship of Fools did pretty well critically for itself. But like I definitely love that game like a 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got like a 77, so it's a 7 or an 8 that we really, really liked a lot. I thought it was a great game.
Yeah,
Christian,
exactly. So
Christian, what was your 7 or 8 that you loved like a 10?
2, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
One was Multiversus for me. I didn't play it nearly as much as you guys, but honestly just had a blast when I was playing it.
Yep.
Like so many fun times playing with Jake or Gabe or Andrew like separately, and like picking up people's Superman and punching him off the side of the stage. Like it's freaking fun, man. Like, I was so surprised by how good the 2v2 worked, and was fully expecting when I booted it up to be like, no, I'm a 1v1.
Oh yeah,
smasher,
absolutely.
you know. And then I started playing with you guys, and I was like, actually, it's so well built for this, and it's so fun. So I had a blast playing Multiversus, as much as I didn't get to play it as much as I wanted to, but. And then the second one, this is, you know, a little biased. I work at Iron Galaxy, so it's a little bit biased, but Rumbleverse is a really fun game, and outside
you're still playing it. Like like I saw you playing it the other day, so I think that says a lot. You're not just biased, you love it.
Yeah. I separately outside of like, you know, my employment there, like I do play it a lot, and I think it's really fun. So that's been great.
Yeah. This one was super hard for me to pick. I had a lot that I feel like I could just shove in here. But I mean, the number 2 would have been Ollie Ollie World, except for that I think it's better than an 8. So, and I think it reviewed better than an 8, so it doesn't really count. So I went with Tinykin, which I feel like people just completely slept on this game. It got like 0 marketing push, straight to Game Pass kind of game. But Tinykin is the ultimate 7 or 8 you love like a 10. It was just so incredibly engaging throughout the entire time I played it. And I feel like I need to explain what it is because nobody ever even knows what Tinykin is. It's like a platformer with Pikmin elements, but with no combat whatsoever. So you're just going around and collecting things in like a collectathon, like a Banjo-Kazooie or DK64. But it just has this amazing flow state to where you never really feel like it's like, oh, I got to go do this before I do that. You just go in a direction, you start collecting, and it all perfectly comes together every single time. And like it didn't have like the craziest art style or like the best music, and like it's over pretty quick. It's only 5 hours, but I like genuinely just love those 5 hours. I would say, yeah, it's probably just a 7 or an 8, but I would highly suggest it to anybody, especially because it's on Game Pass. And actually, for context, I made this category because of Tinykin. The reason I played Tinykin is I heard someone call it the 8 I love like a 10. And I was like, I'm going to play that game. That sounds awesome. And then that's how this category got created. So shout out to Tiny King for creating this category. And that is it, folks. That is our Game Awards. We gave out 10 honors to mini games. Mini games won only 10 awards today. And I think we did a great job. It's the Tiny King that we deserved. I think we did a great job today covering a large breadth of the industry. And even though we're the Co-op Bros, we covered all sorts of games, not even just co-op games. So thank you guys for joining us and making this a fantastic award show.
Yeah, that was some great conversations. You want to tell the people what we got coming up, bro?
Yeah,
videos
sure.
coming up.
So we're gonna have a Dying Light 2 review probably coming out tomorrow or Monday, which is awesome. We're very much looking forward to seeing what people think about our take on Dying Light 2. It's our last review of this year. After that, we're going to get at our top 10 co-op games for the year. Huge video. And then after that, we might have a Christmas surprise. Who knows? We'll see. And we'll probably end the year with our 2022 in gaming, our big culmination, the big fat 45-minute video that just goes through every game we played. We played a lot of games this year. I think I topped 30 for the first time ever, and I think Gabe is like closing in on 35 and above. So a lot we're going to cover in that one, and we really liked the reception we got to that last year. Kind of surprised that people liked it because it's so long and we're just rambling for a long time, but people enjoyed it. So that's,
and we got more.
Year.
Yeah, we got some more lunch streams.
Yep,
I think we're going to be playing some Elden Ring Coliseums because that was really fun. And then we're going to go back and play some more Ember Knights because that was a ton of fun, actually. So thanks for everyone who joins us on those. It's been a good time. So
yeah. So thank you, Jake. Thank you, Christian. You guys have been invaluable as always. We appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
And we will catch you guys next time on the next episode of the Co-op Bros. Bye, guys.